Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Sunday Premier League transfer roundup, and we're going to be starting off with the news from Pep Guardiola that Kyle Walker wants to leave Manchester City and the ridiculous responses again that England's best ever right back, the Premier League's best ever right back, is sadly going to leave Man City. Well, I think the sad truth is that yet again this sensationalist, modernistic claptrap infects what football should actually all be about. Kyle Walker is a Poundland Gary Neville. He's a Poundland Lee Dixon. He is a Poundland Loren. He's even a Poundland Steve Finnan, in my opinion. He is not one of the best right backs this country's ever produced, and he's certainly not the best Premier League right back we've ever had. It's absolutely incredible how, I mean, look, these people, I'm not a big fan of Dry January, but these people talking about it need to get on Dry January because they've drunk too much, way too much. They're absolutely off their heads. Chuff monsters as well. You cannot talk about Kyle Walker being one of the best, being the best Premier League right back ever unless you've watched the entirety of the Premier League. And if you've only watched the last 7 or 8 years, I get it. You know, you see this player that would be playing for Preston North End if he didn't have pace, and you're blown away by it. The bottom line is, every time, and Man City fans know this, and this is not anti-Man City, I will sit here and say Kevin De Bruyne, Vincent Kompany, even Phil Foden will go down as Premier League greats. They'll be in the conversation as, in their positions, were they the best Premier League player that we've ever had in those positions. And I mean that about Phil Foden because although he gets a lot of stick, for his age, what he's won, he is a very talented player, whether he blows hot and cold. But Kyle Walker, I stop at that. He is not going to go into the conversation as the best ever right back in the Premier League. And chuff monsters can disappear from where they came, because if you haven't seen the entirety of the Premier League, you're talking out of your arse. Easily, Ivanovic, Chelsea, better than Kyle Walker. Easily. Loren at Arsenal, easily. Even Lee Dixon at Arsenal, easily. Dennis Irwin was a left back for Man United. He could play right back, levels above Kyle Walker. And above that, easily, Gary Neville. Gary Neville, I know, whatever you think about him as a pundit, as a right back, Gary Neville better than Kyle Walker by a long way. And there are others. I wouldn't even be opposed to people like Azpilicueta, even Zabaleta. You know, there are better players than Kyle Walker. What Kyle Walker did, and the reason he survived so many years under Pep, because you can't survive that long under Pep if you're not good. I mean, I've never heard such bollocks in all my life. People use people because they trust them or they have an asset that they need. I'll take you back to the Euros in England when we played Germany. Mistake by Declan Rice. I think it's Goretzka running through one-on-one. Rice tries to tackle him, would have been sent off, but Kyle Walker comes from nowhere with recovery pace and Rice gets a yellow card. That is why Pep Guardiola uses Kyle Walker, because that recovery pace has got them out of jail so many times. And that is an asset. You check a FIFA card, you check an EAFC card, pace is quite rightly there. But Kyle Walker has lived off that pace for most of his career. When I look at Man City over the last 2 years, I actually think he's a bigger weakness than Trent defensively. I mean, I remember Anthony Gordon doing him last year. Positionally, he's like he's wearing a bloody blindfold. His pace is why Pep uses him. Positionally, he's bad. He's really bad. But pace is what saves him. And he's a good right back. I'm not saying Kyle Walker shouldn't be in a Man City shirt for the last few years, but best right back in Premier League history is embarrassing to the Premier League. You're basically putting him in there because he's quick and played for Man City. Absolutely not. You've got to look at, when you're looking at the best ever in a position, they can't just have 1 or 2 assets. They've got to have loads. Paolo Maldini is not one of the greatest defenders that ever lived because he was quick. He's one of the best ever because he didn't need to do a slide tackle. He read the game. He was good on the ball. He was good in the air. That is why, for me, the likes of Lee Dixon, Ivanovic, Azpilicueta, even Trent. Trent's a better fucking right back than Kyle Walker. Reece James fit is a better right back than Kyle Walker because they've got more strings to their bow. I just can't be arsed with this chuff monster mentality of, oh, he's the best right back that's ever lived. I mean, he's not. He's just genuinely not. He's overrated. he's had a great career and he wants to leave Man City. I really think they won't miss him at all. Just buy a quick right back that can do 2 or 3 things he can't do. You've instantly improved your team. So overrated, in my opinion. Let's have a look at some of the other transfer news. Where will Kyle Walker go? Well, knowing the reputation of Kyle Walker, he'll be doing something selfish for himself. I mean, I just think he's going to... Can I just predict something about Kyle Walker as well? AC Milan are interested in, if he wants to explore other opportunities, is it not obvious he wants to go to Saudi Arabia and double his wage? I mean, look, I might be completely unfair there, but that would be my prediction. I also think he will end up being a Poundland Gary Neville for the rest of his career. I'll give it 2 or 3 years, he'll actually be on the overlap with Gary Neville or TNT or something like that. It's a Poundland Gary Neville, end of the day. Right, who's the best right back in the Premier League at the moment then, if it's not Kyle Walker? Easily, Trent is better than him. And Trent has been a better right back than Kyle Walker. How can Kyle Walker be the best right back the Premier League's ever had when he's not even the best right back in the last 3 years? How does that even work? Anyway, other transfer news. Man City, Mamouche is the next player you're going to be bringing in. What does this mean for Man City and the FFP charges? They're spending money in January. Some people are saying why they're being allowed to do it. You can't stop a club spending money. They're innocent until proven guilty. Are they spending money because they expect to be innocent? I would suspect... Look, I've always said the decision from the Premier League around these Premier League charges for Man City will change the landscape of football. If they are found not guilty, forget about it. It's over. They've got so much money, they've got so much revenue, it's over for everybody else. If they get found guilty, it depends what the punishment is. So that's up in the air, but they're spending money at the moment, so what does that mean? Also, Duran and Aston Villa being linked to PSG. I would hope that doesn't happen. The PSG story has sort of gone quiet recently, hasn't it? They're further than they've ever been away from winning the Champions League, it feels, in the last decade, post the Messi, Mbappe and Neymar departure. Kvaratskhelia from Napoli looks like he's heading there. Duran could be heading there as well. Yeah, keep an eye on that. Be a shame for Villa, but they are still in that Newcastle scenario, aren't they, where ridiculously they almost still have to sell to buy. We talk about FFP, and I've said this a few times now. I do think it needs a slight adjustment. You can't have teams that just throw their personal wealth in. It would get stupid. There has to be parameters. But I do wonder about a system where Aston Villa have done really well and qualified for the Champions League and could do it again and still need to sell to buy. Newcastle are doing really, really well and have qualified for the Champions League and still need to sell to buy. I mean, we're hearing about Isak now. These teams are doing really well and should be allowed to build on that. They have got wealthy owners, Villa and Newcastle, but they're still stuck in this sell to buy scenario. And to me, it's not right when you've had Man City for 15 years who've benefited from not having to do that. There is still a fundamental flaw in my mind. So hopefully Villa can retain their players and Newcastle as well and strengthen what's been a very good Premier League season so far. Yeah, we've mentioned that. Still very quiet around Arsenal. Obviously got the FA Cup game today. Don't know why it's quiet around Arsenal. They seem like they're, if they lose today, there's going to be more pile-on of Arteta and Arsenal. And I think personally it just comes down to fatigue and not actually strengthening when they need to strengthen. Even Chelsea are being linked to players now. Guehi, again, being linked to them. They've got a good relationship with Palace. There's a lot of clubs out there that I think are going to do business. And I think that the exciting thing about the January transfer window for me is that for so many years, especially as a United fan, you get told there's no value, best business is done in the summer. You look at what Chelsea did with Todd Boehly. And hey, just very quickly, I've said this myself, but remember the likes of Carragher and Neville ripping the piss out of Todd Boehly over the last couple of years. Well, they're not laughing now, are they? I mean, Chelsea have shown that aggressiveness in the transfer window, whilst it can look chaotic, comfortably top 4. A couple of weeks ago could have been in a title race, which would have been ahead of schedule, but an amazing squad. It still needs a couple of bits, but an amazing squad. And they changed the January transfer window 2 years ago, and it's changing even again. Like, Man City are buying two players. PSG are taking Napoli's best player in January. Players are available in January now, and I think this is great for football. I think the transfer window, for whatever reason, has been damaged over the last few years. And it's such a massively exciting part of football. And if the January transfer window can become exciting as well, why shouldn't it be? It's like half time in the season, isn't it? Can we add something at half time to be better in the second half? I want the January transfer window to do well, and I think it is starting to become more relevant, which is great. Anyway, get your comments in. Lots to talk about there. Make sure you smash a like on the video. And if you want to watch Arsenal Man United with a watch along today, I'm on the United stand for Man United against Arsenal. Come on, United. Speak to you in a bit. Get your comments in below. Smash a like and subscribe. Take care.